So you missed the suggestion that I call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Beckon.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Gardner. Leo.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Stanton.
Here.
Truster.
Right. No agenda changes that I'm aware of at this time, and I don't believe we have any guest speakers. So at this point, we'll get to public comment on any agenda item. If we have anybody in the audience that would like to step up and introduce themselves, please limit your comments to 3 minutes on any agenda item only. Anybody online, Madam Clerk?
No one with their hand raised.
All right, very good. Then we'll jump right into it. Discussion items. First up, resolution for the Mdot Category B grant application submission. Mr. Manager.
Madam Mayor, thank you so much. We have with us John Moxie, City
Nice.
Engineer, and he is prepared to talk about this item.
Very good. Hi, John.
Good afternoon. Mdot Category B is a unique program. It's a relatively new program. It's only been around for about 5 years. And it's unique because it's one of the only funding sources for local roads. It's targeted towards roads that are not eligible for federal funds. It's also unique because it's essentially a direct grant program. It's very easy, low overhead to administer. Very, very quick and easy to get through the process. That has this benefit of making it very, very popular. So it's open to any city, village, basically that's less than 10,000 population. So that's us. Relatively easy application to prepare, but very competitive. So those kind of play together. We kind of look at both of those things and say, is it worth going after? And it is. Most recently, we applied for this grant a few times for the Campbell Road project with Douglas. And we didn't make it the 2 or 3 times that we tried. A few of the things that they focus on in this program beyond just local roads, they look for projects that partner with another community, which we were. They look for projects that leverage other infrastructure work, which we were. And they look for projects that focus on maintenance. They want to get communities thinking about kind of an asset management approach instead of just reconstructing a road once it gets to, a complete fail. So we kind of focused on the preventative maintenance aspect of this program for this application. Now that Campbell Road is largely done, we're looking forward to other things. We focused on a few different things. We focused on roads that serve the downtown area, either access to the downtown area or parking for it. We focused on roads that kind of serve the school. That's another kind of hot button for this program. So that's kind of what all kind of came together in the roads that you see in the application package there. Again, this is just a draft. This is kind of our take on running around with Scott and seeing what are the needs that are out there, how do they line up with some of these things, what are the roads that need kind of the same thing. We get some economy of scale by doing the same thing to multiple roads. So that's where you see Lucy Street, Spear Street, Francis Street, a little piece of Mary Street, and then Hoffman Street all kind of fit that criteria, looking at all those east-west roads that kind of serve the downtown area to the school complex. We kind of played up the fact that the high school is kind of overflow parking for the downtown area too. So you have shuttles going back and forth. You have people wanting to park on these streets. Lucy Street serves as Bike Route 35. We kind of played into that. So we think it's a fairly competitive application, but again, it's a very competitive program as we've seen in several tries before. The other thing that this program does is they try not to give the same community money twice. They do give you a benefit if you haven't gotten it before. I guess that's a better way to say it, which we obviously haven't. So that works in our favor too. We're hoping it's a good application, but we'll have to see. It takes about a month to 6 weeks before we'll hear back sometime this summer. And then if we get funded, it would be for construction next year, 2023 construction. The numbers side of this, We have a construction cost estimate that we put in here. You're eligible for up to 250,000. We came in a little bit lower than that, thinking that if they have room for a project our size, they can spread the money around a little bit. So we came up with $450,000 total, asking for half of that from the state. It's a 50-50 grant program. So we're asking for 225,000. The city would be responsible for that other 225. There's some engineering costs involved in getting a bid package put together and then kind of watching construction, make sure things are getting constructed right. So all in, we're suggesting a budget of around $300,000 to kind of earmark for this if we do get funded.
Okay.
That's the overview. Certainly any questions, concerns, changes, enhancements you think of, we're certainly up for.
Okay.
Yeah, it may be in here, but just a question. Either in anticipation of getting this, or if we do get it, would you then adjust your lead service line removal program or trying to identify those lead service lines to avoid digging and tearing up asphalt twice?
That's a really good question, because that kind of overarches everything we're thinking about with roads. And we've talked about that before. This being more of a maintenance strategy, it's more of a short-term solution. Okay. So it has an impact on that, but we know that we're going to get into these probably same roads sometime in the next 20 years when that is due. This is more of like a 5-year type solution.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Good question.
And have we learned anything from the Campbell Road project in that grant application on what we might not have qualified for and how to actually win this one?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you that I could figure out why we didn't get funded. I've looked through some of the applications that did get funded over the years. I don't think they're any better than ours. I think that's just a matter of they've got $3.5 million to spend and they get, $30 million of applications. So yeah. Put our best foot forward and we'll see what happens.
Russ, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, John. Thanks for being here. So I really love the presentation that was put in the packet. The pictures are wonderful. I think it demonstrates quite clearly the need for the repairs on these roads. How does this tie back into the PACER study that the city completed 2 years ago? 3 years ago? Yeah,
this is kind of hand in hand. Basically, when we met with staff last week, we kind of concluded that the 2019 study is due to update. So this year we will be kind of doing a complete update on the PACER study and coming up with a formal capital improvements program, basically, which lays out fiscal year by fiscal year. Here's what we think the city has to work with in terms of revenue. Here are the highest priority needs, and put that in front of you folks to say, yes, we like this, or no, move this around or that around. That is kind of parallel path with this. If this gets funded, obviously that'll go to the top of the capital improvements list, but these are kind of the higher priority needs that we saw kind of getting ready for that study, along with things that we think are going to make a good grant application.
Yeah, living near many of these streets, I can attest to the need for this.
Yeah. So, Holly?
Thank you.
You mentioned that this is a direct, quick grant. And so my question is, what is the grant process timeline?
Yeah, so this is a great program from Mdot. It's state money, so you don't have quite as many strings as you do with some of the federal dollars that come through Mdot. Basically, what if we get awarded a grant, we turn in a bid package to them that says, here's what we're going to put out on the street to get bids on, and they review it and say, yes, that looks good. We go out and we get bids. Once we have the bids, we send them a tabulation of the bids and say, here's the cost that we've got. It's enough to justify the amount that you gave us. And they say, here's a check, go do it. So it's pretty quick turnaround.
Okay, so you're from the time that, is it a rolling deadline and then they let you know from time to time, or how soon would you know?
Yeah, so June 15 is the deadline. So if this is something you want to pursue at your Monday night meeting, you would pass the resolution that's in here. Again, if there are, we don't like this street, we'd rather do this street, that kind of thing, we can make changes before Monday night. But yeah, theoretically, you would pass the resolution Monday night. We'll turn it in by the 15th, which is next Wednesday. We should hear back within 4 to 6 weeks, I believe.
Okay.
They get back to us pretty quick so that we have time to get that bid package ready and start getting ready for 2023 construction.
Yeah, that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate, especially as far as recognizing and drawing attention to the fact damage done during recent flooding from elevated water levels. I mean, all of these, we all know we were underwater all the way down there. And that's, I hope I would think that's still front and center in a lot of folks' minds.
We were hoping that would be a good story to tell too. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely.
All right. Other questions from council? All right. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Good job.
Appreciate it. Next up, Water Street Sidewalk Project. We probably shouldn't let him go too far. So, yeah.
So, Madam Mayor?
Yep, please, sir.
Yeah, this is on page 30. We also have Cindy Osmond on the call with us. Yeah, after you get through John's wonderful packet that he presented, you get to page 30. With the cover page there, Water Street Sidewalk Improvements. Cindy, if you want to just kind of do a quick run through of this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This project was put together by Mr. Moxie to complete a sidewalk connection that runs past 726 Water Street. It was kind of a tricky project because of the grade changes and the utilities there. But John has overcome that and put together a great project for us to do. Connect all the sidewalks so you don't have to go weave in and out of the street when you're walking down to retro boats.
I'll just add that this project has been kind of a vision. It's been on the radar, at least my radar, for probably at least 5 years, just knowing that there were gaps here. And Retro Boats, to their credit, has extended pieces that we were originally looking at. Star of Saugatuck did too. So it's really kind of limited the pieces that we're looking at. Again, it's that Saugatuck Landings piece, and then a little piece to get to kind of the sidewalk that goes up to the boardwalk in Wicks Park. So it's 2 little pieces left that are part of this. When we first started looking at this, we were thinking this is going to be a quick little thing. We'll get 3 quotes from some local contractors and go about our business. As the project has developed, it's getting to the point where it's probably something we'll want to do a formal advertised bidding process, get a bonded contractor, get insurances, things like that, just based on the amount of work that's going to be needed in front of the landings there. So with your approval, basically, we've got a plan in place that we've reviewed with Saugatuck Landings and they're good with. They would like us to do construction in September. That's one of the things we'll want to hear from you folks is when should we tell contractors we want this work done? And then we can get it on the street in our normal bidding process. We'll need, probably about a month or so to get it bid. A few weeks, maybe a week to put together a formal bid package and then get it out there. But could happen this summer. I know the landings would really like it to happen in September. They're kind of reworking their whole schedule around that. So whatever you folks tell us to do, we will certainly do.
Is it feasible to get it done this summer in your mind?
The one contractor I reached out to, I just wanted to at least get a quote or two and see, how big is this project? That's kind of what led us to, let's do a formal bidding process. They thought they could get it done in September, but maybe not even September. So I think it's aggressive to try and find somebody that's got a hole in their schedule that can do a good job for us and get it done. So September might realistically be the earliest we could do it anyway.
So you don't have an engineering cost estimate?
I told the one contractor that quoted it for me that I wouldn't throw their number out on the street.
Okay.
But it's more than 10,000, probably less than 50, somewhere in that range.
Ken starts smiling. Other comments?
Nice range.
Now,
Yes, please.
who pays for this? Now, I know we have our
It's in the
ordinances. However, 726 has already complied with an ordinance. In their original building project, the city had them put in a sidewalk to their specifications at their expense. And now we come back and say, game's changed, and they have probably the most expensive part of the project.
Oh, for sure.
By far. Yeah. So I'm not so sure about the equity involved here when we just come down saying, we want a sidewalk to Cook Park. Basically, it's going to Willow Park in my mind, but you're gonna have to pay for it. And just because you got another one in there. So I think that's a discussion we should be aware of and have.
I'll tell you, they were not shy in reminding me of, they went through the plan review process and built exactly what the city told them to build back in the day. So yeah, I think if you were to approach them about paying for it, it would be an interesting discussion.
Other comments?
I just wanted to remark that at the private residence, I noticed that there are stakes in the ground that's actually on city property and it's sort of roped out. And I'm concerned about the legality to the city of property damage to cars. Also, as Cindy Osmond just acknowledged, we're talking in a public meeting about pedestrians weaving or children and pedestrians weaving in and out of behind parked cars. So I would like to see the stakes and the lines removed because they're on city property. And in my mind, that creates a hazard and a liability to the city and unsafe condition for pedestrians.
Yes.
From a long-term perspective, there will be sidewalk right up against the curb there, so those would have to be removed. You're thinking more short-term. That's certainly a good concern, valid concern.
Yeah. So back to the payment aspect of this, it does fall upon the resident, the owner, to pay for it, right?
I believe that's in the ordinance, correct?
And that's the way it's always been.
That's my
It's
understanding.
not a new thing.
I wouldn't say always. I know that the city has worked on situations where it's been a 50-50 for like sidewalk replacement. Now, if you consider this a sidewalk replacement, I think that might be something you want to take into consideration.
Go ahead. Any thoughts?
Oh, no, I mean, so we're talking about a new sidewalk.
Right.
I think John Moxie was referring to the fact that the property owner at the property is a little perturbed that it went through the city planning processes and it wasn't within the right of way. Or the city didn't request it to be in the right of way before my time, so I don't have any specific knowledge of it. So we're not talking about replacement.
Right.
We're talking about a new sidewalk along the roadway, and which would be in addition to the sidewalk that they have on their private property. So it is very awkward. And so we're doing our best to do our due diligence and present this and just go through like a very formal process on getting this approved. So if the council wants to have a discussion on who pays what, that's up to you all.
I'll advocate on their behalf just a little bit since they're not here, but as far as our survey goes, it appears that the front of their building is kind of the right of way line there. The sidewalk that they have, it looks like a private sidewalk, but it is, built to public standards. Essentially, it was intended to be the public sidewalk. A lot of the cost in this is basically removing pieces of that. They didn't want their entire, front yard basically hardscaped. So, some of the cost is involved in, removing pieces of that sidewalk to make it more of like a private access walk instead of, the public sidewalk.
Yeah, I think it's good for us to talk about this because I'm the data person in me would like to know in how many instances in the past have we helped financially in the construction of a new sidewalk. I'd be curious, how many times are we talking about and what was that amount before we, it's clearly in the ordinance that it's to be paid for by the property owner. So if there are instances that we have that are documented where we've done that in the past, where we've helped subsidize it, I'd like to see it before we just assume. I'd like to see
just top of my head, I know Allegan Street, when we redid the hill on Allegan Street that had sidewalk, right along the curb there, that was city cost. I don't believe that got passed on to any of those, either of those property owners.
Was it a new sidewalk or a replacement?
The new, well, yeah, there was existing sidewalk before and it was replaced as part of the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between sidewalk repairs? Like if the tree, roots like break up the sidewalk, I know I've paid half for something like that, but a brand new sidewalk might be a different story.
Madam Mayor, that's my understanding.
Yeah.
Yes, sidewalk repair, there's I think historically a 50-50 cost share in that, which no one's even happy about that.
I know.
But as I read the policy, I think any new sidewalk, that is the responsibility of the landowner.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's a distinction, but I do want to clarify something that John said, that you said the pieces of so first to clarify, their sidewalk as it exists now is within the city right of way.
As far as I can tell, based on, and we worked off of our plans for the Water Street project, which, wasn't going out to that limit. So I'm not sure how much time our survey group put into defining that right of way, but it looks like the right of way line is right across the front of the building there. And so the sidewalk in front of the building, we're showing it within the right of way.
And I also thought that I heard you mention that it was designed to be the public sidewalk or something along those lines.
Yeah, I wasn't the one that reviewed the plans at that time, but again, it's built to city standards. It's built to ADA standard to the point that they could. I mean, it was just one section of sidewalk, but that's their understanding is that was, intended to be the public sidewalk.
And then the final clarification, you said that sections of that sidewalk would be taken out.
Yeah, right now I believe it's like 6 feet wide at the narrowest. Again, more of a public sidewalk standard. They've asked us to narrow it up to more like 3 feet, just kind of an access walk for their units, basically is what they would have done if the city hadn't come in and during the plan review process made them build it to the standard that it is.
And when was it that they made them build to the?
Probably been
10 years.
10 years ago ish.
I would say something like that.
I looked through our files to see if I could find the actual plan review, notes and memos and things like that. I spent a little time. I haven't dug deep, but I didn't find it.
If you look back historically, that was the former sewers fish barn. So it was, and so, and then that property is actually raised up at one time in the 80s when we had high water before, and it was converted to ship as apartments and stuff and everything in a sports fishing store. But anyways, point is when they built it, they had to stay within the same footprint. They couldn't go outside of the footprint. Okay. And then my recollection historically, someone would have to do digging, is that if it was new construction or classified as new construction, it was at 100% owner. Okay. So for instance, I know they're involved up on the condos at the top of Lake View or whatever it's called on the top of the hill on Old Allegan. They had to put sidewalks in along there. They paid 100% of that cost. But I don't believe that when the city wanted to put, say, sidewalks along Francis Street to the school, those are relatively new. All the sidewalks leading to school are new within the last 15 years, I would say. I don't think the property owners paid 100% of any of those. I think 50-50 comes to mind. Like along Francis Street, Elizabeth Street. You might be able to pull those archives out. Another one that comes to mind is Water Street across from the Shipping Shore, all the way down to, I think it goes all the way down to Mill Pond Realty, I think, from Mary Street. That was all new construction. That was paid for, I believe, 50-50, not at 100% by the property owners. The idea there was just to get something to get people down to that's actually to get them out of the street too, but to get them down to those areas. So, just at what I know from a reference point from
I think it would
my recollections.
It would help to have that. Is that possible?
Yeah. So the mayor's request is to get some data on the previous sidewalk installations. We can do that. Cindy did have her.
Yeah.
hand
Hi,
up.
Cindy. You got your hand up.
You're muted now.
Yeah. Sorry, you got muted. We heard background.
You may know more than I do.
Thank you. I did do some research on that project in front of the Dewey's property. And I went through their old site plan review files. It was not entirely clear on their plans. Their plans were a little bit vague, so I couldn't tell exactly what was asked for and what was proposed, but that was done in 2009.
Okay. Okay, so you're going to come back with some info for us?
I'll give you some more information.
All
Yes.
right.
Okay.
Very good. All right. Any other questions for council on that? All right, we'll move on to city-owned docks.
Madam Mayor, this is on page 35. This came out of a previous discussion triggered by the Cooks Park Street on Lease Agreement. This map in your packet's very, very small. You will not be able to read it. But we do have one pulled up on our
Nice.
undersized TV screens as
Yeah.
well. But this was our first attempt at documenting the number of docks
Yep.
that the city owns.
Mhm.
I was surprised. I don't know if you were able to read the map, we're surprised as well. Also, Jamie, Kate, and Cindy, they worked on this in cooperation with John Moxie. But they also put a table together to demonstrate how much the lease rates are. So there's actually quite a bit of data in here. So this is just for information purposes.
Okay.
The next time this is going to come up is when you renegotiate your
Okay.
cook part agreement.
Yes, please.
Madam Mayor, Manager, we had asked when this was previously discussed to add a column that would indicate who the leaseholders are.
Okay, we can do it.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Mayor?
Yes,
May I?
please. Mhm.
Just, I was hoping to walk and look at some of these docks today, but I decided not to, given the rain. But if I'm doing the math right,
Yeah.
well, Wicks Park, for example, I know the rate that a number of residents are paying under the yearly lease lottery. It's $1,800 a piece for a dock. It appears that in item 16, slips are being leased for $1,100, if I'm doing the math correctly, and over on number 14 Griffin Street and West, there are 8 slips there, and given the $2,400 total charge, that's $300 for a slip.
Yeah, well below the going rate.
Significantly.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll add any other comments, questions? This is good info to have.
Yes, it's a good inventory. I think at each particular license agreement, or several of them have different variables involved. Okay, some of them the city splits, gets income from it. Sometimes there's other arrangements like Cook Park. Sometimes there's no agreement at all, like at the end of Butler Street and Noonan Street. But I think this is something that's going to be very helpful, I think, for people going forward, and they start thinking about these things. We're talking about reviewing those agreements, the wording in the agreements, getting a better grasp to what they're involved with and what the ultimate goal was. Was it to make money, or was it to tie in the city boardwalk?
Right.
All those are features I think that go into the thought process in reviewing this. But this is the integral part of it, the real good part. So I think it's a good thing to have. That's for sure.
I agree.
I might not know it up here, but
Yeah.
Ken, you had a comment?
Well, I was just going to add that the Grove Street and the docks there's an operating agreement with Sergeant Marine to maintain that service there. And that's probably why the expenses is the way it is. It's in that agreement, but that doesn't necessarily mean we shouldn't look at it again. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And the component of that particular arrangement is keep those open for transit, not full-time docks, but transit. So we get some people coming in and turnover, and people enjoy the community and so on and so forth, because of the lack of transient docks in our harbor.
Yeah. I know some of the concern that we had when we started discussing this is we didn't want to do anything that would prevent folks from walking up and down the boardwalk. And I think as we move forward with future lease agreements, that is clearly stipulated within that lease agreement that the public will have access to that boardwalk. So, because we do not want to stymie that in any way. Great information. All right, anything else? Very good. Thank you so much. I think I have Parks and Public Works Committee. First up, go for it, Mr. Manager.
Madam Mayor, thank you. This is on page 39. Thanks to Kate White for putting this together for
Hiding in the
us.
corner.
Yeah, she's back there. One correction on the cover page, and it regards the sample motion. It's actually going to the sample motion. So yeah, backing up a little bit, you got 2 items on your agenda related to the Parks and Public Works Committee. The first item is to repeal the tree board, thank them for their service, repeal it. And then the next item is to create the Parks and Public Works Committee. All of this was reviewed by both Jamie and our legal counsel, also on the call. So going into this correction on page 40, which is the sample motion, after it says motion to either approve or deny the ordinance amendment 220613-A to amend chapter 97. That's it. Cross everything else off.
That's it.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
got it.
And that just basically would repeal the tree board.
Mhm.
And then you move into your next item, which is the creation of the Parks and Public Works Committee.
Yep. And you're good with that motion? As it is?
That motion is good.
All right. Okay. We can just talk about these both together. Okay. Comments, questions from council? Used to have a Parks Committee. Did away with Parks Committee, bringing it back. Since we have like the most parkland in the entire like tri-communities. Comments or questions?
No, I think it's, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please.
I think it's just, it's well overdue. We have over 200 acres of parks for a pretty small town, and we use our parks, and I'm really glad to see this, and I think the community is glad to see it as well.
Just to build on what Holly said,
Okay.
Mayor, I mean, yeah, I think if you look back at our strategic planning session, you know, a number of items revolved around the parks and the need to make improvements. So this makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, could we be sure to brief the members of the tree committee so that they understand what we're doing and not come out in opposition to it?
They have been.
They have been.
Oh, yes. They have been. All right.
Well, the fact that we're soliciting more public input for something as important as our parks, I think is critical. I think it's important we get a broad-based selection of representatives on it and vet that well. But you know me, I'm one of these old war horses. I don't like change a lot, so I'll admit it. So,
yeah.
But that being said, I think the public involvement for our parks, them being an advocate and for the parks, and also representing the city's vision to the public on a broader basis, I think it will be helpful. They're much more in the limelight than they were 15, 20 years ago, to be perfectly honest with you. So.
Right. Great. It's a great.
You can tell just when you try to do something with your parks, what the public comes out. I think that's
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Great move forward. A direct reflection of our strategic planning that we've done. All right. Next up, set budget hearing, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Saugatuck City budget schedule. I did. There's a one-page handout, not in your packet.
That you gave us.
That I handed out. Yep. So the idea would be to tonight, maybe right now, coordinate a meeting for what I would recommend is a special budget workshop. What would make sense is to have this before one of your other scheduled meetings, maybe an hour in advance. Backing up from that a little bit, you all have been invited to meet with Peter. And so if you haven't done it, please feel free to do that. So what I recommend is set the budget workshop, special meeting for that. At your Monday meeting, you will have to set your budget hearing where you will adopt your budget. So we're recommending your regular scheduled council meeting at the end of the month, just before that. And let's see, well, and some of these are just details. We have to send out a public hearing notice. And then Peter and I have to do some work to finalize the resolution. And you all vote on it, and yay, we have a budget for next year. What I will be doing is taking a look at your strategic planning session, pulling out projects, the high priority projects, recommending that those actually go in the budget. The way the city's been operating for the last couple of years, well, since I arrived at least, is that we're just pulling money out of reserves, which then requires budget amendments. What I would recommend the council do is just actually put some money into the budget. If it doesn't get used, it goes back to reserves anyways, but that just saves a lot of administrative work down the road. And then now that you have this potentially newly formed Parks and Public Works Committee, they know that they have a budgetary allotment and they can kind of stay focused on staying within those confines, and you can have a very productive discussion about where the money's at and actually what you can do. And of course, grants and other things come into play with all of that, but we're just talking about the budget and the budget allotment. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay. We had chatted about doing an hour kind of deep dive before the Monday meeting, 6 o'clock. Is that still worth considering?
This Monday, we did talk about that.
Yeah, we did. So we've each been encouraged to meet with Peter.
Yes, you have.
We also wanted to set aside some time to just as council, just do a deep dive on it.
Support that.
And so the narrative or the budget, I would say, according to Peter, is 90% complete. So I think we can hit that Monday target.
All right.
So
All right.
schedule that 6 p.m.
Monday.
by consensus.
6
This
p.m.
coming Monday.
This
It's
coming
coming
Monday, 6
Monday.
p.m.
Yep.
Yep.
Push out information, any information we have as soon as possible, of course.
Right.
And again, talk to Peter. Don't
Yeah,
be
if
afraid
you
to
haven't
talk to
yet met
Peter.
with them, please do. It's always good to do a deep dive with him. It's always good.
So you're gonna have time to do the exercise you just
Yes,
outlined?
I will. Yes.
Don't push you, you know. I mean,
I appreciate that.
yeah,
Thank
you
you.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
we could do a week from today or something if you needed the extra time.
I think if we have to schedule another meeting on top of the
Yeah.
workshop that we have, then you certainly can do that.
Okay. Good?
Rather do it right
All
than
right.
fast, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Any other comments on ours? All right. So Monday at 6 o'clock, please. Next up, Saugatuck Township Fire District budget. I asked Jamie print off copies of the fire department's responses to the questions that we had submitted as a council, asking for more information. And I hope if you didn't have a chance to read it, I would ask that you do read it. Anything you want to add, Mr. Manager?
Madam Mayor, I did have a meeting with Chief Janik, Deputy Chief, Saugatuck Township Manager, City Village of Douglas Manager, 3 members of the Fire Board, and Peter Stanislawski. And we reviewed those questions. They did summarize the questions that were asked. And so that's all I have to add at this point.
Anything?
Just one of the answers I find interesting in 4. So some of the other calls, so the fire department responds for ring or jewelry removal.
If a finger is probably broken or something and they have to,
Oh, is that what it means?
that's what I'm guessing.
Oh, someone's.
Probably medical.
Medical.
related,
It's a
something
medical
like
call.
Oh, a medical call.
That's
Okay. Okay.
Probably not jewelry theft.
More
that.
like
Probably not
chop
that,
because your
yeah.
finger is.
And lockout means prior to, it also says including lockout, ring or jewelry removal. I mean, lockout, like locked out of your
House.
car.
Locked out of
house.
your car.
Or
Okay,
or a
that's,
house.
okay. Okay, and that's fire department, not sheriff or locksmith. Okay. All right.
Madam Mayor, just a quick comment. I just want to commend the chief and the staff for the response to the questions. They did an excellent job on this. The only other thing I would add is going forward from a procedural standpoint, it'd be nice to share these in advance because the questions were not received until the responses were received officially to council. So just
I'm sorry?
going forward, the questions that were sent to the fire board, to the chief, were not shared with the general council.
I thought we shared that.
I think they were a compilation of everyone's questions that
I
were
think I had
submitted.
solicited
On-
questions from council. and then it was
procedurally,
submitted.
Going forward, when questions are sent to an authority like that, it would be nice to inform council of that email going out. That's what I'm saying.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah, feel free.
I understand the concern. My understanding from council's direction, perhaps it was just yours, was that the managers would be meeting with the chief, send the questions to me, the manager, and then I would review those with the chiefs and then brief the council. So that's exactly what transpired.
Yeah.
Except that I was surprised that they had members of their board at the meeting.
Go ahead.
I think from my perspective, it would help me. I know that you invited us to submit questions, but we didn't see the list of questions that were submitted and might have jogged my thinking about that and have some discussion about what's appropriate and are there other things we want to include. So I agree with
Thanks, Ken.
Mr. Gardner's comments.
For the most part, as I got this, quite honestly, my first thought as a former academic was that these were not answers to the questions. If you read the questions, you'll see that they really don't answer them. And being referred back to the webpage is not an answer. So I still have some concerns and some questions regarding the budget. And I know in the past, we've just kind of perfunctory approved the budget, and I think it's worth asking these questions. It's fair to ask these questions. We are asked these questions as a city. And I think it's fair to ask the fire department as well. So, all right, anything else? All right, moving on. Oxbow Mount Baldhead Park request, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, this is on page 67. Hopefully this is an easy one for you all tonight. We have a cover page. Any questions?
All right, any questions from council regarding this request? This is always a big event. I've participated myself. It's always, if you get there early, you can park up in the Oxbow parking lot, but more often than not. Any questions?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, just more of a, not aware that this has been asked of us before. Has this been asked of us before to use the parking lot?
I don't recall it either.
Because you're involved with that. Yes.
It's pretty standard.
Baldhead parking lot.
Yeah, they
I
run the
thought-
shuttle to there.
I thought in the past they had an alternate parking space, like at the school or
St.
T-Worth or
Peters.
something, and then had a shuttle.
Mhm.
Yep.
I don't
Mhm.
recall them saying
Mhm.
reserve
Yeah, I don't either.
Mount Baldhead parking lot for a Friday evening in the summer.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the timing of it, especially the considered heavy use at that time. So.
I mean, they're still gonna have a shuttle. Obviously, they're not gonna make the people walk from Mount
Right.
Baldhead.
Right.
Mhm.
And the number of parking spaces on Mount Baldhead compared to St. Peter's or
Mhm.
other areas is.
I do believe in the past, they take a section of Mount Baldhead.
Mhm.
There is some parking there
Yeah.
that the city has given them, not the entire parking lot, but when you pull up to the event, they have, security right there directing people. There is there are, the 20 spaces there that are allowed, but yes, you're right. Like the majority of the people will be parking at, I believe at St. Peter's, that's what they've done in the past. And they've had a shuttle because you could never get everybody attending that benefit at Oval, at Mount Baldhead.
Right.
So.
In terms of precedent setting, we did approve Oval Beach parking to be used for a period of time during the Mount Baldhead Challenge. So we have done something similar to this before.
Yeah.
And in the
Early in the morning.
Fine.
And the memo does mention that it is coning up, to Councilman Leo's point, is that coning off a section of the Mount Baldhead parking lot. I just would want to ensure that people that are arriving there that are not for the Expo event have a place to park to climb the stairs. Or
There is, it's not the complete parking lot. I believe what they do is sort of take like the back
Yeah.
part behind
behind the picnic pavilion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they sort of set up a bit of a security right there to direct, because people come and a lot of people think they can drive right back to Oxbow, but they can't.
So they're asking for 20 parking spots. So
And they may have vendors
3
or
hours.
whatever that need to leave cars there. So it's just logistically so tight. They really have this kind of down to a science.
yeah. Yeah, it's just a matter of making sure that they're putting in the request.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of the fundraiser event. I've been to it myself in the past and fully encourage this. This is great for the community. Just want to make sure that it's available for use by others that may not be going to
It
the
is.
fundraiser. So.
Madam Mayor, just looking at Kate, based on council's questions and discussion, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, could you come up to the mic, please?
And you thought you were going to get away with sitting back
Thought I
there.
could hide back there.
She called
I want to say about 2-3 weeks ago, just made a little request. It was like 15 to 20 parking lots. We were kind of dodging phone calls from each other. Finally was able to talk to her, and she's requesting roughly 20, and it'll be valeted. So valets will park and then golf cart people to the fundraising event. So, okay.
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions? It's a great event. They do a great job every year. All right. Next up, a special event, Pink Patio 10th Anniversary. Anything you want to add?
Madam Mayor, no, page 68, the motion is there.
Mhm.
Eventually, hopefully we'll get to a space where we don't have to bring this type of stuff. in front of
Right.
council, but we're not quite there
Yeah.
yet, so.
Okay. So basically just requesting 2 parking spots to be blocked off for the celebration. Just making sure we
Jamie,
know.
you've done the due diligence. went through the
And free
process.
hot dogs.
And free hot dogs.
Hey, go ahead.
There
They were serving a bigger, you don't want to be compete with the other
In this
other
case,
restaurants, but hot dogs I don't think is a big.
Yeah. All right. Any questions, council? All right, with that. Moving on. Moving on to 4th of July fireworks and parade. There's Mr. Sullivan.
Madam Mayor, council members and participants online, greetings this afternoon. I'm Jim Sullivan, and I wonder if I may make a brief variation on the agenda to give you all some money.
Money is
Fine.
always good.
Background, we've been involved in the household hazardous waste disposal event, both with volunteers and with a request for grants of our Rotary Foundation. They love this event. Rotary has a new focal area of protecting and nurturing the natural environment. And I've been successful, the club has been successful the last couple of years in getting some incremental funds into the local economy for this. By the way, I'm here with the current president, Bob Godfrey, and our communications director, Lisa Mize. She has other roles in town, as you know. Many of us do. But the city of Saugatuck, I'd like to present a check of $12,000 to offset some of those costs.
Thank you.
That's great.
Wonderful. Woo-hoo. Thank you, Jim.
Oh, gosh, thank you. That's a great example of the kind of public-private partnership Rotary is trying to see if there's a role for us to play as a kind of a aggregator of community opinions and energy to do things with the governments in the municipalities to get positive, lasting change done. So proud to do that. Okay, so I have a statement from the Rotary Board that I'm going to read and then provide a little background color on, and then we'll take questions about this. So this falls into the category broadly of I have some good news and some bad news. So here's the statement. The Rotary Club of Saugatuck Douglas is pleased to be able to sponsor the 2022 4th of July fireworks in collaboration with the cities of Saugatuck, Douglas, and the Township. It's our pleasure to help our community celebrate this landmark day in our country's history together. Contributions from the 3 municipalities and other local donations helped make the support possible. And a spectacular show of pyrotechnics over Lake Kalamazoo is scheduled to begin at dusk on Independence Day. So we're all set for that. The only remaining thing to do is to tie down with Safe Harbor the permission to use their property and get that barge in there without screwing up their operations. I am in contact with the lead over there, Brian, and he's kicked me upstairs to the folks who handle these kinds of things for the parent company now. Looks like it's a done deal, and it's exactly parallel to what is already approved by them for Venetian night. So looks like we're good to go. The statement continues, we originally hoped to provide leadership and volunteers for the 4th of July parade as well. However, increased security concerns and new traffic control requirements, including the need to provide car-proof barriers to ensure the safety of parade participants and spectators, leave our membership feeling unqualified as a volunteer organization to take responsibility for a parade at this time. So a little bit of background on this. We've basically run the parade since around 2012. I wasn't around here then, but about a decade ago, through 2019. Then COVID came and nobody wanted to do a parade. Well, officially in 2020. And in 2021, we approached city management staff to say, what are we looking at for July in 2021? At that point, the vaccines had just become available. It still looked pretty cloudy, and council and the city management got back to us saying, no, we don't want to do 4th of July. That created some community concern, and other people stepped into the void and handled things last year. I think with fireworks for sure, and Sadaba may have organized a parade, but I was out of town, so I don't know that for sure. It's always a tough event, but a fun one for Rotary to tackle. Up at the school, there's sort of a well-oiled machine up there. Everybody knows what they're doing. The participants have been perennial, so they know kind of where to get in line. It's tough to find the volunteers because July 4th being a family-oriented day, it often being hot, it's a 2-hour commitment to get everybody lined up and off safely. But we've done it, and it's been fairly easy to coordinate because of those conditions up at the school. You've got plenty of parking and not a lot of traffic at the hour of the morning. We typically do that stuff. So, you know, we wanted to get back into it this year. We heard first there was a change in the parade route, which is going to complexify the issue for us because we didn't know what we were doing down on Water Street, and neither did the parade participants. And we were anticipating we'd have to do some more PR and education about all of that. So more volunteers are needed with more complexity. And then we got the final parade route and the added requirements of providing vehicles and their drivers to block off the side streets for security purposes. And when I brought that information back to the membership and the board, and we tried to find members who were willing to coordinate and be volunteers. I am going to be out of the country on July 4th, so somebody would have to take my place. Our membership, you know, to use a colloquialism, kind of freaked out and started going down the bunny hole of terrorism and liabilities and qualifications and so forth. And the board felt we had a need for an emergency meeting, which we had on Monday, where we talked it all through. And the board felt that those member concerns were justified. So we are kind of bowing out and withdrawing the permit application we made on the 3rd of May. Some of us in the club are prepared outside of the context of the club to provide support to anyone else who wants to step in and maybe coordinate this thing, who's better qualified than we. So there are a handful of us that want to actually continue to be involved. I will certainly, I have a database of participants in 2019. We can contact them directly, and I'm available until the 27th, you know, to help out. But I'll just stop and ask if there are questions from council. Yes, Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Jim, thanks. Just so we're clear, who was leading in terms of the discussion on the security requirements? Was this the sheriff, the fire department? Who was sort of leading the discussion on security requirements?
Well, as I understand it, and through city management staff, it was the fire department's request to have several side streets blocked off that are perpendicular to Water Street so that we could stage things safely.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Am I correct in that, Ryan?
You are correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Other questions from council? Yes.
Who came up with this legend of the route and so on and forth? That was in our packet.
That was provided to us by city staff after discussions about the route with the agencies handling security, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Madam Mayor, yeah, that map came out of probably about a 6-month deliberative process with emergency management, chiefly the fire department, with their concern about having barricades. So we talked about condensing the parade route, also in combination with the high school construction, property not being available. So I don't know how many meetings that Kate or Jamie, do you have a recollection of approximate number of meetings? Not to put you on the spot, but and you don't have to get into details, but just like a real rough number.
Just for 4th of July, I mean, I would say it was about 5 meetings. I know that Scott and I have kind of met during like late fall, winter to talk about parade safety and different route options and what we can do in terms of feasibility and so on. So it's been an ongoing discussion.
And again, Madam Mayor, all of this was triggered by the fire department's concern with having barricades in place for the safety of the route.
My recollection is the first time the route change came up and was decided upon was around the pet parade, if I recall. And that's when the route change and the barrier requirements were stipulated. So this is since what, December, I think it was. Just right after the holiday parade. And
yeah, we kind of feel it's above our pay grade.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
Because my question is, it looks like this is an expansion of a parade route to me.
Oh, it's a reduction.
Yeah. Less intersections, less points of entry into the route.
It used to go through the neighborhoods on Elizabeth and down the hill, and a lot of spectators were up in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Kids and stuff.
Yeah. So, I kind of wear 2 hats in this case as a Rotarian. You've always, my colleagues in Rotary have always known how appreciative I've been of Rotary's role in our community from a service perspective, and certainly then with the Household Hazardous Waste Day and everything from the environmental component. But Rotary's been doing both the fireworks and the parade for well on 10 years. And I know our community is very appreciative of that. And I thank you for the continued efforts with the fireworks. I know COVID really threw a wrench in it for all of us, but for the Rotary to step up and put forward the funds and solicit from the municipalities additional assistance so that we continue to have the fireworks is much appreciated.
We know the town values its parades and fireworks.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for those kind words. Also, I have some good news is that we won't need oval for the Mount Baltic Challenge.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for me?
No. Anything else?
Okay. Thanks for your support.
All right. Thank you. So with that, I would like to say that recognizing the value of parades in our town, I have agreed to step up and lead the management, if you will, of the 4th of July parade. So I will be soliciting a small group of volunteers to help me. We'll be hitting the ground running. Jim has already agreed to help with that until he heads out of the country, as has Scott. So we'll be soliciting a few more volunteers to help us get that organized. And we will have a parade. And I'm not necessarily more qualified than any of our Rotarians, but I think based on, and this is my segue, based on the brouhaha about the Memorial Day parade, we certainly recognize in our town how much we value parades. So what I appreciate what Rotary has done is this process of parade permit has been in the works for well over a month and has been submitted well over a month, probably even longer. I'm looking at Kate again, but
1 day before the 60-day guidance.
Thank you. So 2 months. So 2 months. My point being, and this is a segue to the Memorial Day parade. We have talked about numerous times organizations, entities needing to get it together when they submit their permits, and to not submit their permits in a timely manner places our city staff in a very difficult position. And that is not appropriate for us to allow that to happen. And so at some point in time, we have to draw the line on these permits. If you don't have them in within the established amount of time, in this case, it's been an established amount of time that's been set forth by our fire department, then what are we to do? So a couple of things have certainly come my way regarding the Memorial Parade. We should just out and outright accept the fact that we're going to have a Memorial Day parade and just accept that. There is only one problem with that. We still have the problem of who's leading it, who's taking up care of security, who's doing the volunteers. That is not the job of our city. It is not the job of us or our city staff. So I think what I'm asking us with our connections, specifically with that organization, is they need to get their permits in a timely manner so that what happened this Memorial Day does not happen again. We're a professional organization. We're not high school. Yes, sir. Yes, come on back up to the microphone.
So having helped coordinate these things for the last couple of years, I would say this, that if we knew we were making application for a permit for a thing that was well-defined, we might have been able to address some of the issues related to security with more time. But its time is running out and we had this new thing we had to deal with. And so for the citizens group who want to coordinate things, it'd be great to stipulate if you have Memorial Day and 4th of July, that the parameters are already set and we know what to expect. Right.
Right.
Thank you.
So, please, Ken.
Well, I appreciate your stepping up to salvage the 4th of July parade. I think that's wonderful of you taking that on. And I'm personally, having been involved in a number of these parades over the years, I'm a veteran participant. I'd be certainly happy to volunteer to help you.
Well done.
And Madam Mayor, I would suggest, and I wasn't here when we were asking for additional discussion items, I was going to bring up the Memorial Day parade and the Veterans Day events, parades, whatever you want to call them. I personally think the city should look at those two events as being different from every other event in town because they are 100+ years in durancy, not consistent, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. They've been around forever. They're going to continue for the foreseeable future. And I think the city does have a responsibility to come up with a different approach for those two events going forward. So there is a consistent approach to that as opposed to the individual event applications for the other events that take place. I fully support that. I think we need to find a different approach for those two events, Veterans Day and Memorial Day. I've talked with a couple of other municipalities. They handle theirs a little bit differently than we do. So I think there's some ideas out there that we could use. So my suggestion would be is to form a small group to come back with a recommendation to council on how to approach those going forward.
I can support that. I agree. I think the city should be more engaged in those two parades and events. I just think they should be on the city calendar. Now, that doesn't mean there still has to be some coordination with various agencies, right. But I don't see any reason why even they're so small in scale that staff with adequate lead time can't work on that. I mean, we can get to me, it's not that big of an issue compared to some of the other parades that are much larger in scope. Douglas does their own parade on the 4th of July, or on these two events. But I don't know if they do even have a veterans, to be honest with you, but I know Douglas handled their own arrangements for the Memorial Day parade. But I think that's a discussion to have. I mean, it's not like they're going to happen by the 4th of July. I think we might be getting slightly ahead of ourselves on that one. I'd like to concentrate on the 4th of July first and have that discussion a little later in the season myself.
I just want to remind everybody we're talking about 2.5 pages. That's what the application is. It's readily available on the website. And, you know, I've had to fill out these forms for events. I've had to get certificate of insurance. It is a lot of work to some extent to do an event, but as a city, we have a fiduciary responsibility. We can't just say, okay, everybody just, you know, I mean, that things can happen spontaneously, but it's okay for somebody to have to fill out a form and let us know who to call, who's responsible. It's just because we've done it that way in the past. This is making it a little bit more professional. Just fill out a 2.5-page form. I really don't think that that's too much to ask.
Councilperson Leo, I would say I am not suggesting that we throw the rules out for these two events. I'm suggesting we find a more quick pathway for these events going forward. As Councilman Becken said, these should just be on the city's calendar. They're going to happen. And excuse me, let me finish.
Sure.
Is that they have a responsibility to, I agree with that. It could have been, everybody could have done a better job in the event this year. 100% agreed. I think the city does have a responsibility to take a little bit of a different approach for these two events going forward. I don't have all the answers to this, but I think there's a different way to approach it. But I'm not saying throw out the rules.
I'm afraid I disagree, Russ. You know, a cookie cutter approach to me just invites more problems. You know, we know city staff tried to contact the organizers of the Memorial Day Parade. And what they did was completely logical. They looked at the previous application, found the applicant, contacted that person. That person did not know who was the contact. So having an application on file is extremely valuable for things like making sure the insurance is in place, making sure that the fire department has had adequate time to review it. I mean, nobody loves parades more than I do. I participated in the Memorial Day Parade. I participated in the parade at Christmas. I'm part of the Shovel Brigade. I love parades more than anybody. I love shovel, rifle.
Remember?
A shovel, a rifle. I'll carry whatever they'll get put in my hand. I'll carry it in the parade. I love parades. But I really do think we do need to put some rigor on it. And Memorial Day, Veterans Day, which I don't think is a parade, but nevertheless, Memorial Day is super important, and I agree with you 100%. So is the 4th of July. So do we give the 4th of July parade a different attention than other applications that we receive? I think we should be consistent. I think we should be consistent through all our parades and events, so we can make sure we've done the due diligence to make sure staff know who to contact. Because, for example, I'm really proud to have joined, the American Legion and to be working with other veterans. But what makes me really sad is a lot of them are dying off. The average age of a World War II veteran is 91 years old. The average age of a Vietnam veteran is 71 years old. So if we don't create processes through applications, we're going to lose that institutional knowledge. So just to say we're going to do Memorial Day always, and everyone's expected to do it, it doesn't, in my mind, capture the need to know who these people are and to make sure that they're organized and that they're planning for the future, because they could lose some of their, in fact, we know one family in town does all the work for the Memorial Day Parade, and it wouldn't be the same without them. But someday if we lose them, where's the institutional knowledge going to be? Where are the past applications where we know, oh yeah, somebody new comes in. Yep, here's the insurance company you used last time, call them. I can think of a million reasons why we want to be consistent on this and not do a cookie cutter approach.
Yeah.
And thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. My suggestion is not to do away with the rules, is to, I think, streamline this for the events because they're going to take place. My dad, 83 years old, marched in the parade.
Yeah.
So he's going to be here next year as long as he's able to do it. So it's very important. But in my experience with parades in the city, these two events to me stand apart from all the others, just because of the people involved, the importance to the community, and the expectations. So my simple request is to say, look at this differently, maybe come back with some recommendations how to handle these differently, but not to
or at least schedule them.
Yeah, schedule them. Yeah,
schedule them.
Yeah.
Well, they're
the
scheduled.
city
They
calendar,
happen. They
And,
happen. What's happening? So here's a prime example, and I don't want to belabor this too much because literally we have spent hours talking about parades, probably more than any normal city council or municipality should. The fact that Douglas had the permit in well in advance, and the Douglas Council approved it like 2 weeks before Memorial, and the band had been notified to be in the Douglas Memorial Parade well in advance. So so the problem is that it's not just of having a parade here, it's me getting a call on graduation night from Liz Wilson saying, Garn, what's going on? The band doesn't know. They thought they were only in Douglas. So this is last minute. You got a lot of those kids graduating. They've already made plans beyond what they'd committed to in the Douglas parade. And suddenly the band director's like, what are we doing? I said, you're not doing it, because you cannot ask a group of people to just do it. It has to be better organized. But added on top of all of this is this whole security measure that we're now concerned about, which is a great concern, but truly without that coordination and leadership, everybody knows Memorial Day is Memorial Day and there's going to be a parade, but if there's not an accountable person and organization, then the security element, which just basically provoked the Rotary to say, whoa, on 4th of July. So we are setting ourselves up if we don't continue that expectation of any organization around an event like this, because so it's just going to happen, and it happens, but what happens if there's an accident? And we did have somebody pass out.
We did.
From the heat. It was a very hot day. you know, there's got to be an element on the front end of commitment to this. And just saying that, yep, we know it's going to happen, we leave ourselves as a city totally liable.
But I don't think that's what's being said.
No,
That's
telling
not
you,
what's being
well,
said.
I'm telling you that's what's going to happen. We're leaving ourselves liable. It's not a professional way to operate.
But what do you, may I?
Oh, yeah,
Well,
please.
I'd
What are you
rather
saying,
discuss
though?
this at a different time. We got a lot of things on the schedule, you know. What I'm saying is the city, I have no problem with the city organizing. Douglas takes care of the Douglas parade. It's not the VFW, by the way.
The Douglas DDA takes care of
That was the
it.
Douglas police chief, actually. So,
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
yeah, but anyways, that being said, I think there's just a easier way to do it. I don't see any reason why it can't be on the schedule 60 days in advance. It's on one of the city, the clerk or someone's, and they just say, okay, school, are you in? Okay, VFW, are you in this year?
It's not the
And
city's job.
it's a very simple thing to do. You know, we should be organizing these types of events. I think it's a city responsibility.
It is not. I will pull out
We
our,
agree. We
I will
disagree,
pull
that's
out our
all.
responsibilities as a city council. And in there does not say that we are the programming element of our city. We handle policy and budget.
Madam Mayor, I disagree because we are,
Bring it
that is
out.
not what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
That is not what I'm suggesting. There's an expectation that we also need to raise with the VFW and the American Legion in terms of their responsibility here, which would happen in this situation. My suggestion is very simple, is that we look at these events being a little bit different from the others, not to say that all of the rules and et cetera, and the safety measures have to be done away with. That's not what I'm suggesting at all.
I'm still struggling with why we would look at these events differently when all the procedures and policies are the same. You know, I think all of us, yes, I love Memorial Day, and I was proud and honored to serve in the parade. I was proud to go to all the cemeteries as part of the honor guard and in honor of the fallen. I feel the same way about the 4th of July, Russ. I feel exactly the same way about the 4th of July to honor the birth of our nation. I just don't understand why we would do a carve out for one event, because I don't believe Veterans Day is a parade. It hasn't been the past,
No,
to
it's
my
just an
knowledge.
event.
When we can be more consistent, put more rigor around our process and really get everybody on the same page. Calendaring, I love the idea of calendaring. I love a once a year meeting with the various stakeholders, if we know who they are, to get them, everybody in the room and say, okay, we got a great year coming. We know all these things that are going to happen. Remember, everybody, your job is now going to be to get your application, your 2.5-page application in 60 days before, you know, and like, let's put it in our calendar. Let's do it. I love parades. I'm all for them. You're going to see me at every one, you know, unless somebody arrests me.
I'll be there too.
I know. But I really think we should put some consistency, and I get uncomfortable with a carve out for a single event. I think it creates more work for staff. It creates confusion among stakeholders and organizers that one is different than the other. And that has nothing to do with patriotism or anything, because, you know, as I said, you know, I'm proud to participate in these. I'm proud to have served. I take it very seriously, but I think we owe it to everyone to do this consistently.
So I'm going to put Lisa Mize on the spot. I recall, yeah, you knew it was coming. You want to come up? Because you know the question I'm going to ask you. When was it that the CVB pulled all the entities in the surrounding
I'd be
area?
happy to make that an annual event. I think it's really important and valuable.
You want to explain a little, expound upon what I'm talking about? Sorry, she's reading my mind.
I think it was November-ish, where I invited and pulled together municipalities, organizations who put on various events. And just let's look at the calendar year as a whole, as an area, and lay out everything that we see coming up. But then it was also in an effort to bring people together to start collaborating and making events even bigger and better. But that's the perfect time to remind people that you've got to fill out the applications and these are the deadlines. It's the perfect time to do that. So I'll invite everybody again in November or October, and please, Ryan and anybody else, come and make those statements to the crowd.
Yeah. And I knew part of that came about, and it was really quite brilliant. And I remember some of us, I didn't get to attend, but I remember Jen was there, but any of the businesses, because we had a tendency in this fall, especially, to have events one on top of the other on the same day. And that it was silly for us to do that if we were truly about the process of building on the shoulder seasons, if you will.
Correct.
So could we do a better job of kind of spreading out that love?
Right.
So that I see as the perfect opportunity to, as you have said, to remind everybody if you need to get your permits in. Jim, you want to come on up? And then we'll move on.
I just want to say that I think we got a big and here rather than an or.
Yeah.
And I would personally love to see a calendarizing event where all the requirements were laid out.
Yeah.
And the public-private partnership is the private programmer follows through so the city's job is easier.
Yeah.
And Scott, I agree with you. Russ, I think that all the summer events, maybe through Veterans Day, should be calendarized because, you know, everybody loves them. Everybody hates it when they're not happening. And yeah, the birth of the country and all the people who have suffered for democracy since that time is related to the other events as well. That's all I have to say as an experienced guy dealing with council. This is not a hard thing to do. The permit is easy to fill out, especially if you've done it a couple of years in a row. So it's just, we're willing to inform you all of our insurance and indemnification, all that stuff. If it were consistent across all the events, I think you would be well served.
Yep. All right.
Thank you, Jim.
So very good. And we'll leave it at that. We're going to follow your lead, Lisa, when you come forward. Thank you. All right. I'm going to move us on. Special event music in the park. Becky, you've been so patient. You want to add anything?
No,
Mr.
Madam Mayor,
Manager?
this is on page 99 of your
Thanks,
packet.
Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
All right.
And
Becky, are you still with us?
Yeah, sorry. This is my very first year with SDOB. I just came on a few months ago, so bear with us and all of our things here. So,
Madam Mayor, I just say that, and thank you, Becky. Our staff, Jamie, Kate, they've been working very closely with Becky and assisting her in getting this event application turned in.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the staff time involved in that. Becky, thank you for getting this in. The motion is there and it'll be up for vote on Monday.
Yep. Any questions from council? It's good to see it happening.
Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it.
It's a highlight of my Wednesdays in the summer.
Yep. Anything else? All right. Thank you. All right. Very good. With that, we're back to public comments. I'm going to, if anybody's with us here in person that'd like to step up and make public comment, they're all staff. Anybody online would like to make public comment at this time? All right. With that, I'm going to move us on to entry into closed session. Jamie, our clerk, Madam Clerk, has been kind enough to help us with the motions that need to be made in order to see, guys, in order to go into closed session. So with that, I will entertain a motion for number 1, please.
All right, I'll move to motion to move into a closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268E and H to discuss confidential written legal opinion and litigation strategy regarding the pending litigation involving Dune Ridge SA LP versus the City of Saugatuck, case number 22-65713-CZ.
Second.
All right, motion by Trester, second by Gardner. Any questions?
Do we need a roll call?
Yes.
Second.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Leo.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Truster.
Yes.
All
Madam
right.
Mayor, can we turn to Chris and ask if we can call all 3 of these closed session items and then just work through them, or do you want to jump in and out of the individual closed sessions?
So I actually think that since I'd like to do individual motions. Once you vote on those, I'm comfortable entering into a single closed session. We'll take that in itemized fashion and then we can exit single closed session back to open session if that is.
Right.
So
Okay.
we need a second motion on number 2. Is that correct?
I think.
Yeah.
And a vote. Yeah.
And number 3 as well.
And, yeah.
We need to return all these documents, correct?
All right, thanks everybody. See everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Chris.
Chris.
Good luck.
All right. Anybody to let in there, Madam Clerk? Okay. All right. Looks like this is it. If you don't mind, I am beyond late for someplace I should be. So you have the correspondence in your packet regarding the board and commission vacancies, and you have the correspondence from Catherine Simon. Any further council comments at this time?
Just a quick question on the vacancies. So we open it up for people that may be interested. Have any of those people notified that they're stepping down? Because I think it's Rich Hereford and Rich Crawford on the planning commission. Their terms up.
Jamie?
Yes, we communicated to the current, and after Mondays, we'll post it.
Yeah, so that's their responsibility to let us know. That
No,
they
I
are
know,
gonna-
but have they indicated that they're stepping down, or this is just opening up for anybody that may be interested, right?
Oh, yes, so we communicated that their term is up, and if
Yep.
they'd like to reapply to fill out a new application.
Yeah, thank you. Okay,
Thank you. Very good. All right. Anything else? I don't even think, yes, go. Yes, sir. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Here we go. Oh my
Here,
goodness
second.
gracious.
Guys.
Oh, Trester was a motion.
I'll second it.
Gardner's a second. Do you
Okay.
need a roll call on that? You don't need a roll call on that. Okay. Whew, thank you.